Happy Monday, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this beautiful day as we pull out the topic of denial today. And as always, as I come and I share my insight on these topics that we bring, I only know to bring in a bit of personal experience. And so when we think about denial, there's the idea, at least as I understand it, right? So there's one mind frame or mindset about what denial is, and so that reminds me of growing up inner city Chicago, getting attracted to gang life, street life, and getting involved in that arena. And in that arena, what's become more popular these days, or in recent times, you hear the whole no snitching thing, because that's a part of, I guess, if you'll call it street code, right? But I was taught, and especially in dealing with law enforcement, deny, deny, deny. Did you see what happened? No. Were you involved in what happened? No. Is this illegal substance yours? No. Were you driving the car? No. Have you had anything to drink? No. And so, I took that from street culture, and I also applied that in every other area of my life. And not saying that it started with that, but it helped that, I guess it helped make that tool, or that tool, available and always on hand for whenever I was facing some issue or some confrontation or some conflict or adversity or whatever it was. Whenever I was placed in a position where um, I wanted to save my face or save my butt, it was best that I denied whatever the accusation was that was presented to me. And so deny, deny, deny. Many of us can take that back to childhood, where uh, the whole cookie jar thing, right? Did you take the cookie? As a child, deny. I did not take the cookie. And so, again, it's not just something that only takes place in street culture, and it's not something that only takes place in the world of addiction. But that's one way of looking at it: deny, deny, deny. And so, as I went through my active addiction stage, I applied that principle, right? Again, if the police pull me over and ask me questions, I don't know. Nothing's in here mine. I don't know who that person is that took off running. I don't know who that was that committed the crime. I deny, I deny, I deny. Um, but there's the other way of looking at it, and basically, so that form of denying is flat out being dishonest. I am withholding the truth. I know the truth, and I'm not willing or able or wanting to share that truth, again, in an attempt to save myself from a consequence. And so I just flat out tell a lie. And that's one way of looking at denying something. But when we talk about denial, and especially how it's related to addiction, it's more, as I understand it, it's more like it's a defense mechanism. Although we can call lying a defense mechanism, denial is more um, is more related to an inability to see the truth. It's not that I'm withholding the truth, it's that I'm unable to see the truth. And so it's I can't see the reality for what it really is. And I often share about how my dad, when I was, I want to say 17, it might have started when I was 16. So 16, 17 years old, my dad would always tell me, not he didn't always tell me, but he said it a couple times in those couple years. He didn't think I would live to be 18 years old. And from his point of view, he saw that, man, my first child, who started out in life being on this track that would lead to great successes, who started out being the, the honor roll student and the respectful and living life based on the values and morals that we've provided and from the family of origin. So he gets to see that guy then turn into the one that finally starts getting suspended from school, have interactions with police, on probation at 17 years old. He sees my interests change. He sees my behaviors and my patterns, and he sees my whole life change. And to me, I'm just hanging out. I'm just having a good time. I remember at 17 thinking, man, I've graduated high school. I have a car. I have a job. And I make my own money. I do my own thing. And I had it made. And so that's how I'm seeing me. Yeah, I'm smoking a little weed and doing a little drinking. Nothing major. But that's how I see myself. Well, he sees all these things that have changed. He's been able to have a front seat to the progression and the way that, again, I started out on such a high footing and I'm slowly going downhill. And he's able to connect my behavior and the way I'm living my life to maybe some of his childhood friends. And so he's able to see that, man, this guy's headed for some sticky situations. I couldn't see that. It wasn't that I was being dishonest about what my reality was. It was that I couldn't see the reality that he was able to see. And I would say a good reason behind that, I would say, involves my use of substances at that time, because that's kind of what they do. One, I use the substances so I can escape whatever reality it is I'm trying to escape. So if dad keeps coming and talking to me about my grades slipping, or coming and talking to me about why I didn't go to work, or why I didn't take care of the chores he assigned, I don't want to hear that. So one way in not having to deal with any of that is to go into my happy place, right? I take whatever substance it is and I get to escape that reality. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to be bothered by it. I can just zone out and zone away. So the substances, in doing that, after a period of time, I think I lost the ability to be able to just be in the reality, right? So again, my denial at this point is more so I'm unable to see that I'm ruining my life. All I can see is that I got a job, I got a car, I make some money, and I'm doing my own thing. I'm unable to see that I'm not reliable, I'm not dependable, I'm not responsible, I'm not maturing, and my life is not going anywhere. My life continues to be a repeat. It's like a Groundhog's Day. I get up, I get high, I may or may not go to work, I may or may not, again, do those chores, and then I get high some more, and then I go to bed. And that's the repeat. That's my life for a good number of years. So again, I can't see that there's anything wrong with the way I'm living my life. And so that's denial as I know it, right? And so those are the differences. On one hand, I'm going to blatantly deny the truth that I know, right? Because I want to avoid some consequence. On the other hand, I've worked my mind to the point I'm unable to see the truth, because I can only see the good. I can only see the positive that I'm experiencing connected to my drug and alcohol use. The positives, like, man, me and my friends get together and we have a great time. The conversation is great. The social interactions are great, right? I can see that, because I'm involved in this world, I know so many people and I'm so popular, and things seem to just come together in this world, right? But I can't see as I'm progressing or gaining popularity or a standing in the world of drug addiction, I can't see that I'm losing my positioning in real life. Right. So again, that's what separates the two, as I understand it. On one hand, I'm just flat out lying. I'm being dishonest to avoid a consequence. On another hand, maybe it's also to avoid the consequence, but it's not intentional. And so when we look at denial, I believe, again, it is connected to addiction. When I went into treatment, I guess the best um, definition or best way of explaining what denial is, I received when I went into treatment for substance abuse, and it was an acronym, DENIAL. Don't even notice I am lying. Right. So again, there's the difference. It's not that, yeah, I am lying in a sense when I say, oh, I'm living my life, everything's good in my life. In a sense, I may be lying, but it's the part that I don't notice that I'm lying. I don't notice that I'm not being able to give an accurate account of what's truly going on. So that's the part that makes it different, is I don't even notice it. And so it's closely connected, associated with a person in active addiction. And one thing I also want to always be able to do is point out how addiction affects more than just the person using the substance, right? It also, they talk about addiction being a family disease. And this is one area where, the symptoms fall on either the family member side or the addicted person side. So denial coming from the user or the addicted person may sound like some of the stuff I've already discussed, right? I am in a position where I think everything in my life is okay because my mind and my mental processes and the way I perceive information, it's all distorted, right? So I think everything's okay. The only times I think life is pretty hard or harsh or is presenting a challenge is when I can't get my next I can't get my hands on my next substance. I go to jail, or you nagging me about my substance use. Those are the times when life is rough. Other than that, life is great. If I got access to the substance I'm seeking out, and if I don't have nobody in my ear trying to tell me that I'm living my life the wrong way, then life is pretty okay, right? Because I stay in the mode of the la la land. That's where I reside now. I don't live in reality anymore. I live in the distortion, in the delusion. And so there I got peace. There I'm at ease. It's only when I come back into the real world and I get confronted with the way I'm living my life that I have a problem with the real world. So I try to get out of there as much as I can. And so for the family member side, I think it, at times can look like for my father, right? So I remember, I think I was maybe around that same time period, 16, 17 years old. And I remember my dad telling me that I would have to take a drug test. And I don't remember all the details around it, but it was like there was definitely a consequence. If you fail this drug test, then this is going to happen. And to this day, I have no idea what the results of that drug test were. I do know I went into panic mode, and I went and searched out and tried to find all these, recipes for detoxes and things I could do to get my system purified in that short amount of time. But I don't know what the results were of that test. But so I was 16, 17 when he presented me with that. And so in that time, he's suspecting that I'm doing drugs. Drugs have to be involved with or have to be related to how I'm now living my life. The problem was, or the unfortunate reality was that, I've already been in this lifestyle for 3 or 4 years now. right? So by the time he notices or suspects, I'm already gone. I'm at the point of no return already. And so at this point, I don't know if he had just begun to suspect it, but we'll say the 3 and 4 years prior, um, there's a good chance he was just in denial, because not my honor roll student, not my favorite child, not my firstborn, not favorite child, but the one of the favorites of the family. Again, I'm the example in the family, right? So it can't be him. Yeah, my younger brother, it would be easy to believe at that time that he was the person that fell off into drugs, right? Because he was kind of the bad kid. I was the good kid, he was the bad one, right? So it would have been much easier to believe that he was the one who traveled down that path, but not the good kid, right? So there may have been a period where my dad couldn't, although the signs were there, because I always think about those after school specials from back in the day, where they said if your child starts dressing different and acting different, and behavior changes and friend groups change, if those are going on, it's probably drugs. And as all those changes took place in my life, it's a possibility that he ignored those things and only saw me as being the good kid, right? So there's that denial. And again, around 17 is when he confronted me and told me I had to take this drug test and so on and so forth. But in other family situations that I've heard or witnessed for myself, you can play out all the facts. You could have recordings of the person stealing your belongings. You could have recordings of them going to the dope man and purchasing, and you can have them on camera using the drugs. And the person, that family member, can still have a hard time accepting those cold, hard truths, right? Because uh, I have my thoughts stuck on the person I know you or want you to be, and I have the inability to connect to the reality that's being presented to me, right? And so again, denial can affect not only the substance user but also the loved ones. um many drug addicts come with the same old stories, right? I got a flat tire, can you send me some money? I ran out of gas, can you send me some money? I don't got diapers for the kids, can you give me some money, right? And the loved one can know, because every time I give them this money and they come with this story, they go and buy drugs with it. So although I know that's been the experience in the past, the denial sets in. And I believe that this time they're going to be honest. This time they're truly going to use this money to purchase diapers, because I know they have to be able to put their kids before the drugs, right? And so again, that denial can show up in many ways, and from all involved, especially in the arena of addiction. And so some of the things I believe can be helpful is being able to, last week talked about the support groups. And I think it's important, as I mentioned then, to have some healthy support groups, whether I'm the addicted person or I'm the family member. Because in either area, here's what I've learned as a result of being involved in support groups, for recovery support groups for my addictions. I've learned how to, when I first got sober, I learned that I couldn't expect my loved ones to just trust me because I've been sober for a week. And that was one of the, I guess, the expectations I had, that now that I've changed my life, everything should just be okay. You should forgive me for all the wrongs I've done, and you should see me now as this new person, as this changed, sober, clean, drug-free person, right? Your loved one. And that's a common expectation. And so my support was able to explain that, hey man, they also have to heal. They also have to, it takes time for that trust to be rebuilt or regained. And it is possible that it may never happen. Your job is to not worry about or not try to work towards getting them to trust you. Your job is to work towards being a person that's trustworthy, right? So I learned that from my support group. On the family side, some of those red flags that get ignored, some of the enabling that takes place, or some of the inability to see the reality, that support group may be able to explain, some helpful, provide some helpful information to help that loved one or that family member be able to overcome. And so again, I believe the symptoms, often we talk about recovery being only for the addicted person. And my personal belief is that, again, addiction is a family disease. And the only symptom that I believe is different is the actual use of the substance. In addiction, we talk about, or the addicted person talks about isolating, right? There's this level of like shame and guilt connected to me as I'm using these substances. When I do have the moments of clarity and I'm able to say, man, I got to stop living this way. I can't keep doing this to this person or to myself, right? So there's those brief moments of clarity. And then those moments, like, I'm aware that I'm aware of the reality, right? And as I said, I don't want to live there no more, but every now and again, I got to stop by and visit. And that's too much to bear. So I escape and I go back home, and back home is La La Land, right? So I have those brief moments of clarity where I'm able to see some truths about myself and how I'm living and how I'm treating people. But I don't like to look at that stuff, because when I look at that, then I got to start feeling bad. Then I got to start feeling like I'm less than. I got to, I'm inadequate, and the insecurities come to the light. And I feel like I should be further along in life than where I am. And I feel like, man, I was the good kid and I should be so much better. And I get all these emotions and feelings and thoughts that, again, I don't want to deal with. Right. And so I go internal with all that stuff. I escape it to the best of my ability, and I go internal. There's nobody I can talk to about how I'm feeling. There's nobody, I got my get high, my drug buddies, but they don't want to sit and hear about my sob story while we're trying to experience this euphoria, right? So I keep that stuff locked in, deep, tight inside of me. Well, on the family side, it's the same thing, because I can't just go around and share the news that, my loved one is a drug addict. Why? Because I don't want to deal with the shame. I don't want to deal with, people pointing fingers and whispering behind my back and creating all these narratives about what's taking place. So I just hold that stuff on in, and I deal with it on my own, or I don't deal with it. On the drug addict side, a lot of times there is there's a lot of manipulation and deceit that takes place. But one of the things that takes place is, or one of the things that's kind of common, is the inability to control my emotions. And so when I'm in that point, again, I as I stated earlier, the thing I don't want to address is anything that's confronting me about my drug use and the way I'm living my life. So when my spouse, my parent, my child, any of my loved ones are coming to me and pointing out problems with the way I'm living, I get angry. I get angry because I don't want to. Deep down inside, I know it's true, but again, I don't know how to access the reality or connect to the reality. But I don't want to look at that stuff. I don't want to look at the fact that I'm lying, cheating, stealing from anybody that comes close to me, right? So I bury that stuff. And if you point that out to me, then I have to attack you. Another defense mechanism, right? I need to keep myself safe. I need to keep my secrets safe. I don't want light shed on this way of life that I'm engaged in. And so anytime you point that out to me, it comes in anger. My response or my reaction to that can be anger. Well, let's look at the family side. You come and you confront me about some things, you ask me some questions, and because you don't understand, denial is me not being able to see myself as you see me. And I'm saying, no, that is not how it happened, and that's not the truth, and I'm disagreeing with everything you say. You may get angry, right? And so nothing can be solved if I'm angry for you confronting me and you angry because I don't understand or I don't have the reality or perspective that you have. Then all we doing is bumping heads, right? So there's another symptom of addiction that we both have. I'll go with one more: dishonesty, right? Again, separating denial from dishonesty. You ask me a question and sometimes I'm flat out dishonest. Did you steal my $20? No, I did not take your $20. That's the way my dishonesty as the drug addict can look. Your dishonesty as the family member can look something like, because this happens a lot. Oh, baby. Oh, mom, I'm so sick. I can't go into work. Now, you know, I'm having or withdrawals. You know, I'm hungover or I'm going through some effects of my drug use. And you'll do something like call the job and say, oh, I'm sorry, Johnny won't be able to make it in today for whatever reason. We have a family vacation. We had an emergency come up, right? So your dishonesty can look something like that. Your dishonesty can also show up where it's like the children, right? Or the other family members. Oh, why isn't, Jake at the family event? He worked late and, he just needs to get some rest, or he's been under a lot of stress lately. Right. So though the dishonesty may be totally different, at its core is still dishonesty. Right. So I want to make sure we continue to not separate. Right. Because the symptoms of the disease of addiction that impacts the addicted person, a person substance, and the family members, the symptoms walk hand in hand. No different than, you know how hard it is to convince the drug addict or alcoholic that they need to get help, to see that there's something wrong with the way they're consuming these substances, or to see any fault with how they're living their life. You know how difficult it is to get them to acknowledge that? The same goes for the family, right? The family says, why do I need to go to a support group? They're the problem. The drug addict says, man, if only my mom, my loved one, the police, the job, if only they would act right, then everything would be okay, right? And so it's important that we begin to look at it as, the disease of addiction. Again, in my opinion, the only thing that separates the two is one member is using drugs or alcohol and another member is not. I may stay up all night long because I'm using drugs and alcohol. My family member may stay up all night long because they're worried about me. Neither of them is good for my health, right? And so again, we separate them and we want to put them in two different classes, but that's the disease of addiction. And it roars and rumbles and causes chaos and destruction in any life that it touches. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the life of those who use the substances. And so that's pretty much what I have for today, right? I gave a little bit of insight of my understanding of denial. If you want more of a fact, science-based, informational, educational piece, then we do have a blog for you to check out. And so we'll drop the link for that blog in the comments. And I hope you go ahead, and it's, a short read, but it's packed with a lot of valuable information. And so again, I encourage everybody to check that out. And please share this information, this video, that blog with anybody who you feel might benefit from any of the information that's been shared. If you have any comments, please throw those in the chat. If you have any questions, also throw those in. And as of now, I don't believe that I'll be answering the questions live. What I will do is go back to the comment section and answer any questions in the comment section. And so I thank you all for checking in today, and we will do it again next time.